All right, let's go over to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, and Georgia emerging victorious over Florida, and maybe a closer game than a lot of people expected going into it. Number 2 Georgia winning this game 34-20. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Georgia Bulldogs. Highest graded player was true freshman 5-star safety KJ Bolden at 83.3 grade. Number 2 linebacker CJ Allen 81.4. Jared Wilson, the center, 77.8. Running back Nate Frazier 77.3. Chaz Chambliss, the edge defender, at a 75.7. And Carson Beck with a 59.1 grade in this one. Going over to Florida with their highest graded players in their loss. Safety Aaron Gates at 87.1. Devin Moore, the corner, 82.7. Jake Slaughter, the center, at a 69.9. Tyreek Sapp, the edge defender, 67.8. Jack Pyburn, the edge defender, 67.1. And then the third string quarterback, Aiden Warner, had to play in this one with a 42.1 grade because DJ Lagway went down with what seemed to be a serious, I think, hamstring injury. And hopefully he's not out for the entire season, but it looked pretty bad, honestly. And I think he was in street clothes and on crutches during the game. So hopefully, obviously, we hope DJ Lagway is healthy from that. But that kind of is what killed Florida in this game, just losing their star freshman quarterback.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it starts for me. It's not so much a stat, I guess, is just what happened here. I think it is reasonable to think, at least reasonable to think, that they could have beaten Georgia if DJ Lagway would have been able to play the whole game. I mean, that's just where this game turned. They were up 10-3 at the time that happened.
He made some throws, too.
He made a big touchdown throw after a Carson Beck interception that got him that touchdown. And even then, look, the game was tied with 5 minutes to go. I mean, they still were in it as long as they were in it. If they had Lagway instead of Warner in there, and Warner, look,
it's a tough spot.
Redshirt freshman, walk-on. I mean, just got to Florida in the spring.
I didn't know he's a walk-on.
Yeah, I believe he transferred up from an FCS school as a walk-on and joined the. I mean, it's a tough spot to be in, right? And obviously, you're going, okay, now you're going against Kirby Smart and really your first real action here. And that's where it went. He was 7 of 22 for 66 yards, an interception, 3 turnover-worthy plays. So their offense on those first 4 drives with Lagway, okay. Team grade on offense, 66.4. The rest of the way with Warner at the helm, it was a 52. They just couldn't. They don't have enough. I mean, the Gators have enough. They have a hard enough time winning ball games when they had Graham Mertz and when they had DJ Lagway. And now you've got a third stringer in there who's just really not ready to play a game of this caliber. Georgia's defense eventually was just too much for them to handle. And even then, again, the game was tied with 5 minutes left. I think that's the story of this game, is it's very reasonable to think if Lagway got to play the whole game, which I didn't think would be the case. We both picked Georgia by a pretty good margin, but I think there's some things to worry about here with Georgia going through this game, because even then, I mean, they score, then they get the interception. It looks like a 14-point game. Oh, they went and beat them by 2 scores. It was easy. It was not easy. The 14 points that made that margin were scored in the last 4 minutes. So, I think Georgia, I don't even know what to make of this game for them against Ole Miss next week. I have no idea at this point. From all the chaos we've seen in college football, the way Ole Miss now suddenly looks like Ole Miss the last 2 weeks. Georgia, you get a big Texas win, you come back, you look shaky against Florida. I know some people will just call it the rivalry, but you had Carson Beck with 3 more interceptions. I mean, it's shaky. It is shaky with Georgia, especially offensively.
Yeah, it really is, honestly. And yeah, it's a great point. They really probably would have lost this game if DJ Lagway played. And it's just, again, not trying to go against Aiden Warner too much or talk bad about him, because really,
he's just not ready for a spot. It's an awful spot to get your first extended action
also,
like that.
Got to remember, it's like he's not the backup either. He's a third string quarterback.
Right.
It's not like they had Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz is out for the year. Now maybe DJ Lagway's out for the year. It's just it's a really just brutal injuries on top of a brutal schedule for Florida. Really, maybe the most unluckiest team in college football that we got right now. One of them at least. So yeah, it's just rough. And then another quarterback who struggled, Dalton, but this one should not have struggled. Carson Beck, 56.3 passing grade in this one. Second straight game, he has a below a 60 passing grade. Dalton, before these last 2 games, he never, ever was below a 60 passing grade. In his entire career before this. 0 big-time throws, 3 turnover-worthy plays, 3 interceptions. This is his 3rd straight game with multiple interceptions. His 4th game this year with multiple interceptions. In his career, he never had multiple interception games. Now he has 3 straight and 4 this year. The big problem when I watched Carson Beck, I actually, late last night, I went and watched some Beck last year compared to this year. What was working last year? What is not working this year? what going into the year, one of his biggest negatives going into the year was, he's not aggressive enough, he's too conservative, whatever. Now, he is way too aggressive. He's trying to put the team on his back. He is not that quarterback. He's not that kind of guy. And last year, what made him so elite was that he knew what his job was, and he was complementing the great weapons that they had in Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, who both, by the way, are excelling in the NFL. So that's a big story, too, is that, hey, they don't have those guys anymore, and they don't have anyone else right now who's even close to those guys. Like I said, now he's over-aggressive. Now he's forcing it. He is nowhere close to being a first-round pick, at least the way he's playing right now. And like I said, he probably would have lost this game if DJ Lagway did not go down. So I think Carson Beck is like not as extreme, but Noah Fafita is kind of the same way. It's like he's not playing his game anymore. Now he's trying to be someone he's not, and that's the reason why he's been struggling so much.
And you remember what I talked about in our preview, the splits? We talked about play action and no play action. Yeah. In this game, play action, 73 passing grade, no play action, 46.1. Yeah. It is going to continue to be a thing. I think we are just here at this point. We're in November now. Georgia is not a team that can just drop back and throw the football.
Nope.
You can't. They have to run it. They have to go with play action. They have to protect Carson Beck when he's in play action. It's just not. He's really actually been one of the lesser quarterbacks in the Power 5 in true drop back situations. And right now, it makes you wonder if he's throwing deeper shots like that, expecting like, okay, I have to elevate these guys because I don't have McConkey and Bowers, right? They could elevate me. It's not good. What does he have? 10 or 11 interceptions in the last 5 games?
Yeah, he had 7 all last year.
I mean, and you know, the third one in this game was batted up in the air and it was weird, but the first 2, I mean, they were pretty egregious. I mean, it's not good. He's making mistakes all year. This has been the case. They get in play action, cool. They'll be fine. The linebackers step up, O-line, Nate Frazier, Trevor Etienne, whoever. But they can't just sit there and drop back and throw the football. They can't do it. And they did it for the second half against Bama because he was chucking it up because he had nothing to lose. But it's not there. It hasn't been there all year. It's honestly, this isn't news.
No, and I think, there's a comp that a lot of people float around, and I actually like the comp going into the year, was Jared Goff. And Jared Goff in the NFL is a quarterback that is really reliant on his supporting cast. I think the Goff comparison holds, but in college. Carson Beck is the Jared Goff of college football, where if he does not have elite weapons, like Jared Goff at Cal didn't have like elite stuff around him, and he was playing at a great level, and why he was the number 1 overall pick and all that.
And you see a similar split here as you usually see with Goff is clean, solid, pressured. He threw all 3 interceptions under pressure.
But even like now the comparison, I don't even like that much anymore because I think Carson Beck is the Jared Goff of college football, which means in the NFL it's even more extreme, right? So like that's a big problem when you're trying to project him to the NFL as well, is that Goff was at least great in college without a lot around him, and now in the NFL he is reliant. But when you have great stuff around him, he's really good. Beck in college is like this. That's a really scary sign for him going to the next level. It's like, hey, if you don't have that in the NFL, it's going to be even worse than that. So, yeah, I think that's a really scary sign because Goff, remember with the Rams initially, when they didn't have a lot of stuff around him, he really struggled. And then obviously going to the Lions, he's been great. Beck is kind of like that in Georgia right now, where last year they had Brock Bowers, they had Ladd McConkey and a great offensive line. He was playing at a great level. This year they lose those weapons, and he does not look anything like that so far this year. So it's kind of a scary sign for Carson Beck right now. But Dalton, ultimately, though, what was the most impressive part of this near upset for Florida?
I'll just give the Gators coverage unit their credit, man. I mean, I've criticized them all year, but they were good enough to win this game. It's just their offense put their defense in impossible spots. 66.5 team coverage grade, actually not that bad for the Florida Gators. Got the 3 interceptions, and one more thing on Beck, 10-plus yard throws. You mentioned working vertically down the field, just a 46.8 passing grade. The Gators defense was not bad in this game. They were just put in an impossible spot to win the game. And honestly, until the last, 4 minutes, they kept them in position to possibly win this game, even with Aiden Warner at quarterback.
Definitely. All right, so I'll go into one impressive part about Georgia, because we've been talking a lot about how, this is awful by Georgia. They still won the game, though, honestly. And I think a big part of that was that their offensive line has just been continued to be elite. So like I mentioned before, the supporting cast for Carson Beck this year is worse than last year. That's the receiving core. This offensive line is still playing at a really, really good level, especially protecting the quarterback. 86.8 pass blocking grade in this game. 0 sacks, 1 hit allowed on 43 snaps. Only 5 pressures allowed all game for Georgia's offensive line. Jared Wilson, the guy we just showed as one of the highest graded players, he's been one of the best centers in college football this year. He didn't lose a single rep in pass blocking. He didn't allow pressure, and he also wasn't even beaten by his defender once either. Ernest Green also didn't lose a single rep, one of the offensive tackles for Georgia. So really the one thing that they can really hang their hat on offensively is that this offensive line is really, really elite at protecting Carson Beck. But other than that, I mean, in that receiving core and even with Carson Beck right now, they've got issues. But that offensive line and even the run game has been pretty solid for them this year as well. It's really all they have to hang their hat on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing when you have a top 5 or 10 offensive line in the country. That does help a lot, and they give Beck a chance to succeed. But the rest of it, I would be very worried with the way their passing game has looked basically all season. I'd be very worried about Georgia in playoff situations and in a national title situation, because you put them head-to-head against, say, an Ohio State right now, it'll look the same as the game yesterday that Penn State played. You'll just see nobody will get open.
Yeah, I think Austin Dwyer is a really amazing stat. I think this might be true, too. He said this is the first time ever a quarterback has won back-to-back games with 3 interceptions. Crazy.
Ever? Like,
that's what he said, at least. I don't know if that's true. I have to look it up, but that's pretty, 3 interceptions back-to-back games and won both those games. That's interesting.
I figured there's some gunslingers out there who have
maybe. We'll have to get that fact check.
We'll have to look into that.
But if true, well, that's pretty insane by Carson Beck there.